Good morning and welcome to No Man's Land, Oklahoma. We are currently taking the hike up to Black Mesa. It's the highest point in Oklahoma, just around 5,000 feet. The sign says 4.2 miles, so that's about 8.5 miles round trip. And also a sign says you must be in reasonably good condition to make this hike. I'm not sure what their definition of reasonably is, but I'm probably on that borderline. I need to get in better shape, but I'm going to tell you all about No Man's Land while we start walking up to the summit here. But it's a fascinating area, and I've been really excited about going on this trip. I came through here a couple years ago and did a video about Kenton, which is just down the road. It's kind of the nearest community to here, and a couple other communities in No Man's Land, the panhandle of Oklahoma, and just kind of got real fascinated with it and the history. And it is one of the most interesting places in the United States, I think. Any place that used to have no laws, no rules, and has had such a colorful history, I feel like I need to go explore. So through these series of videos, we're gonna explore all around No Man's Land. And in this first one, we're gonna be up in the northwestern part of Cimarron County. And we are real close to New Mexico. We're real close to Colorado, not far from Kansas, not far from Texas, but literally we're gonna be able to see New Mexico up here. So, but what is No Man's Land and how did it come to be? In the Compromise of 1850, Texas ceded to the U.S. government a region claimed by Texas since its days as a republic. An early proposal for Kansas Territory's southern boundary was to have it run along the northernmost Texas state line. Much Cherokee land would be taken, so the Kansas boundary instead was moved northward in 1854. This left a rectangle of federal public land. This rectangle was unattached to any state or territorial government from 1850 to 1890. It was identified on most maps as, quote, public land or public land strip. Today, it is the Oklahoma Panhandle, but during the late 1880s, it was popularly known as No Man's Land. Home to nomadic American Indians of the High Plains, it was controlled by Comanche and allied groups from 1850 to 1875. The strip's west end experienced much traffic along the Santa Fe Trail and some military excursions. Originally within the Spanish colonial province of New Mexico, it also saw at its western end some 1860s settlement by New Mexico sheep herders. Some panhandle geographical features still carry their old Spanish colonial names. Large numbers of buffalo hunters crossed into the public land in 1874, introducing wholesale hide hunting and precipitating the 1874 Red River War. A year later, the last free-roaming American Indians were reservation bound, and the buffalo herds were shadows of its past. I guess that means 1 mile down, 3 to go. With the Indians and buffalo removed, Texas cattlemen moved into the Panhandle without buying or leasing land. Although it was federal public land, the strip was given little administration attention, and cattlemen continued their unregulated appropriation of land on into the strip. Boundaries between ranches were established and usually were divided between water sources. The Texas Panhandle towns of Mobeetie and Tascosa arose in 1875 and 1876, connected by trails through the public land strip to Dodge City, Kansas. Lodging, provisions, stores, and communities grew near water sources along the trails in the strip after 1879. Some of these grew into towns. Like the cattlemen who led the way into the strip, the townspeople could not hold title to the land. They laid out streets and lots, then built homes, stores, saloons, newspapers, churches, and schools. The establishment of a post office was a critical step in transforming a ranch into a town. A ranch owned by the Tarbox family was the first of these strip settlements to receive a post office. 'The, 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 They found that the Tarbox Ranch was in neither of these, as the public land strip had never been assigned to any category. To resolve the dilemma, the Post Office Department simply pretended that the Tarbox Ranch was in Texas. Thus, the first post office within the Oklahoma Panhandle was established in 1880 at Tarbox, Texas. Beaver City got the second strip post office in 1883. Some maps portrayed the public land strip as part of Indian Territory, and some strip ranchers had paid fees to Cherokees for use of the land. The Post Office Department assigned the name Neutral Strip of Indian Territory to the public land strip. From the establishment of Beaver City's post office until 1890, the strip's post offices were assigned to the Neutral Strip of Indian Territory. The Post Office Department reinforced incorrectly that the public land strip was part of Indian Territory. Because potential settlers believed the Neutral Strip to be in Indian Territory, cattlemen operated there without much competition for land until 1885. The U.S. Land Office affirmed that the public land strip was not part of Indian Territory, but belonged instead to the federal public lands subject to squatters' rights. News of this opinion reached Kansas, and soon land-hungry farmers headed to the public land strip. They found no land office and no government surveys to facilitate homesteading. They surveyed the land into quarter sections themselves. They then squatted on their claims, hoping to acquire legal title in time. These claims tended to fan out from the trails and towns, staying near creeks and streams. Little serious farming took place. Few squatters could afford seed and equipment, and grain markets were too far away for meaningful profits. Most of the strip squatters practiced subsistence farming. Men often took jobs in towns far back east, and their families stayed to hold on to the claim. These were very hard years, and most squatters would abandon their claims forever to join the 1889 land run. Communities emerged rapidly after 1885, though, and 30 post offices were established within the public land strip before 1890. All but 3 were in the eastern half of the strip. Given no territorial or state government, each community improvised its own local agencies such as land claim boards, courts, and schools. Vigilantes enforced order, and some communities hired men to operate as town sheriffs. The strip had claim jumpers, horse thieves, and other bad elements, but the strip had relatively few outlaws compared to other regions due to as much the uniformly shared poverty and vigilante punishment. Claim jumpers were banished, shot, or hanged. The people of the strip governed themselves and maintained civil order for more than 5 years without a central government. Between 1885 and 1890, strip residents actively sought rights to homestead their claims. The most ambitious effort was under the name Cimarron Territory. Although failing congressional approval, the Cimarron Territory government met from 1886 to 1889. Around 1885, the term no man's land became widely applied to the public land strip. The nickname referred simply to the fact that no man could legally own land in this strip. Hello! Documenting my death. He said he saw a rattlesnake up here, so we'll keep our eyes out. The 1890 Organic Act made the strip part of Oklahoma Territory and brought its homestead rights. The entire strip was named the 7th County and then soon renamed Beaver County, and a land office was placed at Beaver City, county seat for the entire Panhandle. During 1890 and 1891, government surveyors partitioned the land into sections, and the squatters' self-surveyed lines were corrected. The old settler squatters who could verify their claims received up to 3 years credit towards the homestead requirement of 5 years residency. Capital and new settlers came gradually into the region. Economic development blossomed when the Rock Island Railroad through liberal Kansas and Dalhart, Texas, went through the center of the Oklahoma Panhandle in 1901. This and later railroads reoriented settlements away from the old trails of no man's land. Many of the old communities died as towns, farms, and ranches relocated to be near the train stations. Land developers now promoted the area with the assistance of railroad corporations. Land was still available for homesteading, and more settlers poured in. As the number of farms mushroomed, new roads were laid out to provide access to the railroads. At statehood in 1907, the old territorial Beaver County was divided into 3 new counties: Cimarron, Texas, and Beaver. Old settlers who had squatted and stayed on uncertain land for some 20 years before finally enjoyed vindication of their faith in themselves and the land. Kansas, 53 miles that way. New York, 1605. But they were disappointed that it wasn't 5,000 feet. So close. Just about 17 feet more. It's 4.7. So the book is just full, absolutely full. So I just found a new spot right there. It's about the only place that's available in the book. And a friend of mine made this and sent it to me, so I think this might be a good place to leave it. It was definitely an interesting hike / walk. There were some difficult parts. I'm definitely not in the best shape I've ever been. It's certainly windy today. I was doing some drone footage and it pretty much drained my entire battery with how windy it is out here. But we got some good footage and it's nice. It's cool. It's a unique place. You don't think of Oklahoma like when you see pictures and video like this. So definitely enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the learning about no man's land on the way up. On the way back, we're gonna talk about the county here, Cimarron County, which is the least populated county. You know, it's the only county in the United States that touches 4 different states: Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. There's the eastern edge of the county is Texas County and Oklahoma. So 5 different counties in those 4 states, including Oklahoma being the 5th. So pretty unique county. And in terms of the no man's land stuff, probably some of the more interesting, parts. I thought this is a good place to start. Also, since I'm here at the height of no man's land, I figure I might as well have some beef jerky made here in this county. The wind is about to blow me over. This is legit my best or my favorite beef jerky, and I'm not just saying that to get a sponsorship. I need some protein from my walk back. There's still another 4 miles back. All right, let's learn about Cimarron County. Prior to the Organic Act of 1890, there was little population in what later became Cimarron County. Of the inhabitants, some were felons searching for places to avoid the law, a few were sheep herders from New Mexico territory, and several were cattle ranchers from surrounding states. There were no schools in the county and only one post office before 1890 named Mineral City. In 1890, there were only 2 communities in the entire area. Carrizo, just over the line in New Mexico, and Mineral City had enough residents to bother counting. Carrizo claimed 83 people, and Mineral City had 98. When Oklahoma became a state in 1907, Cimarron County was created, and within it were 20 post offices and incredibly 56 schools. Until the county seat election in 1908, Kenton, which had previously been named the temporary county seat, held the county records. Several communities fought for the county seat, including Boise City, Cimarron, Dobie, Hurley, Willow Bar, and Centerview. Boise City won a runoff election over Dobie, and Dobie no longer exists today. The Elkhart and Santa Fe Railway completed a line from Elkhart, Kansas, into the county in 1925 and on into New Mexico in 1932, but service ended in 1942. The same corporation completed tracks from Colorado to Boise City in 1931 and south to Texas in 1937. Agriculture and cattle ranching remained the economic base throughout the 20th century. After the area recovered from the 1930s Dust Bowl that centered in the Panhandle, the wheat and grain harvest peaked at over 9 million bushels in the 1980s. There were 481 farms in the year 2000 involving over 1 million acres of land. In the 1950s, the county commenced natural gas and oil extraction with 7.4 million barrels of oil produced between 1979 and 1993. The population went up and down for about the first 60 years. As you can see, it started with 4,500 people in 1910, up to 5,400 at its peak in 1930, and then stayed around the 4,000 mark until the 1970s, when it started decreasing all the way down to 2,296. And once again, it is the least populated county in the entire state of Oklahoma. Whew! It is getting warm out there. Started at about 70 degrees and now it's towards 90. And definitely got my sun intake for the day. Spent a little over 4.5 hours on that hike and back. Now I had to stop and take videos and things like that. So I think you could probably do it in 3.5 if you're pretty fit. And if you're not, maybe about like me, it took about 4.5. Now that we've talked about the history of no man's land and you've learned a little bit about the county here, the westernmost county in the Panhandle, I'm sure you're wanting to see the county. So let's start exploring around and we'll see what we can find. You know, there's not gonna be a lot of towns, but maybe we'll find some interesting things throughout the kind of northwestern corner of the county. So when I was hiking the Black Mesa, it talked about dinosaurs being in this area. And on the Google Maps, it says there's dinosaur tracks over here. So I guess we'll go see if we can find them. And I believe I have found them. I know next to nothing about dinosaurs, so is this real or is this just some, something that looked like it might have been dinosaur tracks? Fortunately for me, it's not a very long hike to this one. So I think there's at least 3 of these in this county, because there's one here, there's going to be one with New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, and one with Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma. There were a lot of post offices in this county, and there's only like a couple left now. So I like to try to go and find maybe where some of those used to be, or if they used to be a town, or there might be a cemetery there. In order to get to the next one, I got to go up into Colorado and over and down, because there aren't roads out here like that go kind of straight between place to place, because it's obviously there's some mountains and there's just not very many people out here either. So there's just a limited amount of roads, a lot of gravel dirt roads. But we're in Colorado right now, and we'll be back in Oklahoma soon. So our first town is kind of, you unique, I guess you could say. On the map, it says, I don't know how to pronounce it. Actually, I was hoping someone would be here, but there isn't anybody here. But it looks like it's pronounced Regnier or Regnier or something like that. I don't know. But I noticed on the map that it was at the end of a road, kind of a dead end road. And so I didn't know what that meant, if it would just be a no trespassing in somebody's driveway. But I looked real close. I didn't see any kind of no trespassing. And then when I pull up, there's some old buildings. But yeah, I was really hoping someone would be there to give me a little bit of information here. I do know there was a post office for almost 30 years in the 1920 to 1950 range, and this is home to the driest place in Oklahoma with something like 15 inches of rain a year. So it would be funny if it was called Regnier, because it's not Regnier, it's the least rainiest place in Oklahoma. But yeah, I don't know too much about it. It's one of those places that used to have a post office, so I don't know if there was much more to it than some of these old buildings that were here, almost 100 years ago. So I'd found some places on an old map that were locations of communities or towns or post offices. And right here would be Benola, or somewhere near here. And there was a road that went kind of in the general vicinity of where I think that it used to be. As I was turning on it, I saw an old mailbox that looked like maybe it was a mailbox if somebody hasn't lived here in a long time. And driving down the road, it looks like this hasn't been driven on very much. So I didn't know what to expect, and I pull up. There's a no trespassing sign on the gate, and it says violators will be shot. So yeah, so that's as far as I went. I did see some old buildings. Looks like somebody's farm or ranch, but yeah, I don't know if that has anything to do with Benola. The post office is only here for a couple years. And but yeah, if you're wanting to explore and find Benola, I wouldn't go too far past where I just went. Those clouds getting closer. Ooh. Good day to have that happen. Well, that was a departure from the plan. I will not be impressing any of the NASCAR pit crew members if they watch this video. It took me 30 minutes. It's 100 degrees out. It says 106 in here, but I think it's more closer to 100. But yeah, so I had to take a couple breaks, and I did do a 9-mile hike earlier today, so double workout. So yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find a tire shop in Boise City, which is not too far away. I can limp my way over there on this donut, and then we'll see how much time of the day we have remaining. I don't know, this could be the end of day one, but we're out here for a few more days, so we will not be deterred. We're going to continue on our exploration of Cimarron County after we get this tire fixed. Got the tire changed, and I just actually got some food while I was waiting. And so I think that we're going to call it a day. There's some pretty rough looking clouds just to the north of here, and could be a storm tonight. So I think it's probably best to decide to head to the hotel, which we're going to stay in a log cabin or a cabin of some sort at the Hitching Post working ranch. So that'll be something else to see here. And then hopefully all this weather and bad luck will get through. And then in part 2, we'll really get to see a lot of the county. So I'm leaving Boise City. Looks like Boise City, but it's pronounced Boise City, which is the county seat of Cimarron County. And if you watched previously, I did a video about this town. So if you're wondering where I'm at, so this would be, that would be where I'm at. If you want to watch that video, catch up if you haven't seen that previously. Gonna head out to Kenton, which is where I'm staying tonight. Hopefully this storm goes a little bit north. In fact, the way I'm driving looks better than over to the north. So hopefully it stays that way, and my little cabin at the Hitching Post it ends up being a good place to stay the night. I rolled into the Hitching Post and got checked in with Bob and Jane Apple, who owns the ranch here. And as you check out the room, it's got a main bedroom area kitchen. It's got a bunk bed in the back if you got kids. There's not a lot of places to eat here in this area, so you can stock up on groceries, do some cooking. But yeah, it's a cool little spot. It's only $70 a night. You're gonna be really out in some beautiful areas. Not gonna have a lot of internet access in a place like this. And it was super, super windy that night. Fortunately, the storm blew past and it ended up being a beautiful evening here at the Hitching Post. Thanks for watching this video about No Man's Land, Oklahoma. If you like this video, there are several ways to support the channel. You can donate by hitting the thanks button under the video or purchase Travel with a Wiseguy merchandise. In the description of the video is a link to my website where you can learn more about the channel and sign up for my newsletter. And if you aren't interested in any of that, I'm just happy you took a few minutes out of your day to watch this video and learn more about the history of No Man's Land. And now on to the outtakes. For the sake of the reality part, I do have a backpack that's carrying a drone and some other stuff, electronics and stuff. So I'm carrying a few pounds. I'm not a total waste,